Were they on Earth before us? Was our planet perhaps once ruled by a highly advanced civilization long before the first humans even existed? That is precisely what the Silurian hypothesis suggests. Today, we will take a closer look at this, from mysterious underground cities to pyramids to LiDAR maps of the Amazon. Today, we're uncovering the most spectacular discoveries about the planet's past. So make sure to stay tuned until the end. A warm welcome to you all. Yes, the idea that humans might not be the first intelligent species on our planet is truly fascinating. Of course, many would now argue that the adjective intelligent doesn't necessarily apply to every member of Homo sapiens. But if you are intelligent, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Subscribing doesn't cost anything. You won't miss any new discoveries and you'll be helping me out. And if you've already subscribed, giving the video a thumbs up really helps. The YouTube algorithm loves that. And now we're going to take a deep dive into Earth's history. Before we get into it, what do you think? Could there have been a civilization before humanity? If so, where and how? Feel free to write your craziest ideas in the comments. YouTube is full of claims that either the pyramids or supposed structures in Antarctica were built by pre-human civilizations, or that scans beneath the pyramids reveal a huge underground city, or that the entrance to the hollow Earth is located beneath the eternal ice. There's a lot of nonsense being claimed, so today we're going to break it all down and see what could realistically be true. Could a technologically advanced civilization have existed on Earth millions of years ago? Let's start with this revolutionary idea that completely turns our understanding of Earth's history upside down. I'm sure there are some Doctor Who fans among you, right? Feel free to let me know in the comments if you know the series and if you're a fan. I'd be interested to hear. If that's the case, you probably know the Silurians, who in Doctor Who are a species of reptilians that inhabited the Earth as an intelligent species long before humans. The Silurian hypothesis, or Silurian hypothesis, is named after that very Doctor Who species. That is, the idea that there might have been other civilizations on Earth before humanity, even in reality. I knew it. AstroTim believes in lizard people. This whole line of thought explicitly has nothing to do with the conspiracy theory. We would be ruled by lizard people or something like that. That would actually be nice. Maybe that would be better than the current government. In any case, researchers have actually examined the idea of a previous civilization from a purely scientific perspective. The Journal of Astrobiology published a paper in which astrophysics professor Adam Frank and NASA researcher Gavin Schmidt worked out in detail whether we could even discover such a previous species. At first glance, it doesn't seem unlikely that several intelligent species could develop on a planet over time. Our Earth is already 4 to 5 billion years old. As far as we know, life has also existed for a very long time. It has been proven that the first microbes emerged almost 3.7 billion years ago. So life has existed for 3.7 billion years? Humanity in its modern form has only existed for about 200,000 years, and our current civilization for even less time. Our modern life is just a blink of an eye in the history of the Earth. So it doesn't take much imagination to consider it at least theoretically possible that humans were not the first species on planet Earth to develop consciousness and build a civilization. Maybe it's like in that Star Trek episode with the Voth, intelligent dinosaurs who migrated from Earth to another planet. None of this is exactly super likely, but it's not impossible either. And that's why it's very interesting that researchers have taken a closer look at how we could prove the Silurian hypothesis. Are there any traces of such a civilization that we could find? Depending on how long such a species lived before us humans, we would unfortunately not be able to simply dig up their buildings as archaeologists do, or, if it was a very long time ago, even find fossils just below the Earth's surface, but would have to search for very, very deep geological imprints. The research paper states, when it comes to direct evidence of an industrial civilization, the geological record does not go back further than 2.6 million years. If you go back much further, everything has been overturned and ground into dust. So we are unlikely to accidentally stumble upon abandoned underground reptilian cities, because if such a thing existed, it would have been ground into dust long ago by the passage of time. But perhaps there are other remains that would still be preserved. To find out, it helps to imagine what remains of us humans would still be found in millions of years. What traces would our civilization leave behind that would stand the test of time? In fact, we collectively leave behind many traces that would still be there long after all our buildings have fallen into ruin.
The use of fertilizers, for example, means that we divert the planet's nitrogen flows into food production. Future researchers could deduce this from the characteristics of nitrogen in the sediments of the Earth from our time. The same applies to rare earths found in our smartphones and cars, which would be deposited much more frequently in the upper layers of the Earth. The same applies to microplastic deposits. So our civilization definitely leaves traces in the sediments that would never be noticed by the untrained eye.
But futuristic alien geologists would definitely be able to detect that. So if you try to consciously avoid plastic, you're making things very, very difficult for the alien geologists. So that means we would just have to look for exactly these kinds of geological signatures to maybe find a civilization that lived before us.
If there were other ancient advanced species to be found, we could discover this by studying element and composition anomalies in the sediment records. How easy this is, of course, depends extremely on how long such a civilization existed. After all, a species that dominated the planet for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years would naturally have left a much clearer mark in the sediment than a species that existed only for a very short time and then wiped itself out in a nuclear war.
Which species would be so foolish as to destroy itself with nuclear weapons?
And are there any such clues in the history of the Earth? One possibility would be a sharp rise in temperature that can be dated to around 56 million years ago. At that time, the Earth was undergoing the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. During this thermal maximum, the average temperature on Earth climbed up to 15 degrees above today's level. It was a world completely without ice because the summer temperatures were so high that even the North and South poles melted completely. Perhaps this was climate change triggered by an ancient species. Probably not. There is evidence that this thermal maximum may have been triggered by a massive release of buried fossil carbon into the air, but the entire process took hundreds of thousands of years. So this sounds suspiciously like a natural process and not an indication of a Silurian civilization. Personally, I find it rather unlikely that there were actually other intelligent civilizations that ruled planet Earth. But it is still very interesting to explore the Silurian hypothesis because it may also help us to better understand evolution on exoplanets. Adam Frank says, by asking about civilizations lost in the depths of time, we are also asking about the possibility of universal rules that govern the development of all biospheres and their entire creative potential, including the emergence of civilizations.
Exciting, isn't it? But the clues pointing to past civilizations aren't limited to just theoretical considerations. Right beneath our feet, there could be secrets hidden that would change everything. Take the world-famous pyramids of Giza, for example. What if what we can see is only the tip of the iceberg? Two scientists claim to have discovered something incredible beneath the pyramids using state-of-the-art technology.
These gigantic stone monuments are not only the oldest, but also the only surviving of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Built over 4,500 years ago, they continue to fascinate researchers and tourists alike to this day. And now 2 scientists claim to have made a truly remarkable discovery. Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa in Italy and Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde in Scotland announced in a presentation that they had found something incredible beneath the pyramids of Giza using state-of-the-art radar technology, a huge underground network that, according to them, is 10 times larger than the pyramids themselves. The 2 researchers used a special method called SAR technology, short for synthetic aperture radar. This involves analyzing radar waves reflected from the Earth to create 3-dimensional images of the subsurface. According to Biondi, this data was then used to reconstruct what lies beneath the desert sand. And what exactly do the researchers claim to have discovered? Biondi explains the images show 8 cylindrical structures that we have identified as shafts. They are arranged in 2 parallel rows and surrounded by descending spiral passages. We found them under each of the 3 pyramids, and they appear to serve as access points to this underground system.
That certainly sounds impressive at first. The supposed shafts are said to reach about 650 meters deep, and the entire network is supposed to stretch over several kilometers.
For comparison, the Pyramid of Cheops is just 146 meters high. So allegedly, there is an underground city here that completely overshadows the visible structures. In a press release, the findings were euphorically described as groundbreaking. If the discovery proves to be true, it could rewrite the history of ancient Egypt. Before we all throw our history books in the trash, we should perhaps ask ourselves whether these spectacular claims hold water. And there are a few inconsistencies. First of all, it is striking that the study has not yet been published in a scientific journal. This is always a little suspicious because such sensational findings are usually only announced after they have withstood the critical scrutiny of other experts. Professor Lawrence Conyers, a renowned radar specialist at the University of Denver, points out, with this SARE technology, it is simply not possible to penetrate so deep into the ground.
However, he concedes that it is indeed conceivable that smaller structures such as shafts, caves, or chambers could exist beneath the pyramids.
Just last year, a team of Japanese and Egyptian scientists discovered a mysterious L-shaped structure under the Royal Cemetery that is at least several meters long and filled with sand. This discovery was made using electrical resistivity tomography, a method that is significantly more reliable than SAR. Lead professor Motoyuki Sato from Tohoku University in Japan said of the discovery, this could be part of an artificial structure because this L shape would not occur in natural geological processes. We were hoping to find something, but we didn't expect to find it there.
This structure could be a kind of entrance to a yet uncovered temple, a burial chamber, or a ritual space. And these confirmed discoveries show that the Giza Plateau certainly holds secrets. But we are still far from discovering an underground gigantic city. As enticing as the idea of a hidden city beneath the pyramids may be, it is most likely a combination of misinterpretation of radar data and a bit too much imagination.
And many people are apparently asking questions about the colonization of Antarctica because YouTube is full of rather dubious videos on the subject of civilization in Antarctica. These theories can be roughly divided into two groups.
First, have humans settled in Antarctica in the past? Second, has another non-human civilization left traces of itself in Antarctica? Let's start with the first claim. Were there human settlements in Antarctica?
One of the main arguments often cited is the Peary Race Map. This map was created in 1513 by the Ottoman cartographer and admiral Peary Race. 21 years earlier, America was discovered by Christopher Columbus. This map is known for its astonishing accuracy in depicting the coastlines of South America and Africa.
At that time, many world maps looked a bit like a hodgepodge and didn't depict the exact appearance of the coastlines or the distances between the continents very accurately.
The Peary Race Map is above average in this respect, but perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this map is the depiction of a mysterious land south of South America, presumably near the South Pole, which, based on its position, is suspiciously reminiscent of Antarctica. Based on its position, it could be the area of Antarctica now known as Queen Maud Land and claimed by Norway.
And now some of you might say, but south of South America is Antarctica. So what's the problem?
It is now believed that Antarctica was not discovered until 1820. That's right, we have only known about Antarctica for about 200 years. And here's another really crazy fun fact. The planet Uranus was discovered before Antarctica back in 1781.
What's the story behind the Peary Race Map? People like Eric von Däniken, for example, not only claim that Peary Race depicted Antarctica on his map.
Instead, it depicts the exact coastlines of an ice-free Antarctica, which could only mean that he had this information from an ancient advanced civilization that had lived in Antarctica for so long that it had experienced it without ice. So did humans discover Antarctica earlier and then perhaps settle there? Even though it would be super fascinating, it is very unlikely. The claim that the Peary Race Map shows the exact coastline of an ice-free Antarctica can easily be refuted. The original shape of the Antarctic continent is not simply revealed by removing the ice. Due to geological processes, the coastline of Antarctica looked very different in the past than one would assume today. Archaeologist Nick Thorpe from King Alfred's College in Winchester says, the millions of tons of ice weighed down on the Earth's crust, compressing it considerably. The coastline used to look very different from how it appears now under the ice. The coastal Antarctic islands, which are equated with those on Peary Race's map, must therefore have disappeared. Looking at the map with an open mind, the mysterious islands correspond exactly to the Falklands.
So, the islands on the Peary Race map probably don't depict islands directly off the coast of Antarctica, but perhaps the Falkland Islands?
They were actually discovered much earlier than Antarctica. And what about the large landmass shown on the map south of South America? Today, most scientists assume that it is a fantasy or the fictional southern continent Terra Australis Incognita, which medieval cartographers included in their world maps because they suspected that something was there for reasons of balance. Rightly so, as we know today. However, there is no evidence to suggest that Antarctica was actually depicted here. There are also no findings of human settlements from the past in Antarctica. Today things are different. In addition to many research stations, there are 2 civilian human settlements in Antarctica. The Chilean village of Villa Las Estrellas with 80 inhabitants and the Argentine Esperanza station with 66 people.
Okay, so apparently there was no human civilization in Antarctica, but what about non-human civilizations?
Among proponents of ancient astronaut theories, it's widely accepted that the icy continent was the place to be for extraterrestrial or even subterranean advanced civilizations. The entrance to the hollow Earth is suspected to be here, or buried UFOs from visitors from the depths of the cosmos. This is not an absurd question, because modern humans have only been around for about 200,000 years, while the Earth has been around for 4 to 5 billion years, so there would have been enough time, and ironically, conditions in Antarctica were quite good in the past. 90 million years ago, for example, Antarctica was still covered with dense vegetation. Temperatures were similar to those in Italy today. Marine geologist Johann Klagers says that was an exciting time for Antarctica. It was basically the last time that the entire continent was covered with vegetation, and probably also with wild animals, dinosaurs, and all that. We know this quite certainly because traces of conifers and tree ferns have been found up to 30 meters below the Antarctic seabed. The Cretaceous period was a very warm era in Earth's history, and due to the high concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it became cozily warm in Antarctica. Warm enough for a non-human intelligent species? Then we would probably have to find some kind of remains, wouldn't we? Here too, you often hear about supposed pyramids in the eternal ice, like here for example. A curious geological formation that can be seen on Google Maps. Is this a structure built by a pre-human civilization? Number. Eric Rinnett, professor of Earth System Science at the University of California, says, "This is just a mountain that looks like a pyramid. Pyramid shapes are not impossible. Many peaks look like pyramids in part, but they only have 1 or 2 such faces, rarely 4. We can also look under the ice for such potential remains. This map was created from a combination of radar echo and satellite data. Red indicates peaks and green indicates land above sea level. Radio echo sounding technology allows us to look under the Antarctic ice by sending electromagnetic waves into the ice and then recording the reflected signals. These signals then provide information about underground layers, the topography of the subsoil, and other features such as liquid water or certain rock layers. This allows researchers to create detailed maps of Antarctic underground structures. If there were any remnants of past civilizations down there, there's a good chance that our technology would have already detected them. So overall, we can say that there were neither past human settlers nor extraterrestrial visitors in Antarctica. And the next time a YouTube video like that pops up in your feed, you can immediately assume that it's very likely nonsense. It's incredible what secrets our planet still holds for us. And whether or not the Pseudo hypothesis is correct, one thing is certain: the Earth is full of surprises that we have by no means all discovered yet. Of course, I'll keep you updated here on the channel about all future archaeological sensations and scientific breakthrough. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button now and don't forget to give a thumbs up. Maybe we'll even hit 5,000 likes. That would make me really happy. And now we travel to a real lost civilization. My next video is about Doggerland, which some call the Atlantis of the North Sea. This mysterious land was buried under the waves by a mega tsunami, and today researchers are certain that people lived there at that time. What is Doggerland all about? We'll take a look at that in the video displayed at the top right. Be sure to click on it, it's very, very exciting. As always, there's another video on science and space at the bottom right. Otherwise, I'd say see you in the next video. Take care, folks.